Hello, hello. Welcome back to the weekly Monday Motivation Podcast, No More Excuses. I am your host, Sandy Ballard, the Badass Business Coach. Thank you for being here, listening, and sharing this podcast with others. And a huge thank you to listener Erica Edwards Dillard, who let me know the sound wasn't working on last Monday's podcast. I got it fixed by Tuesday morning because I had obviously forgotten to upload the recording. I did everything else. Forgot to click save when I uploaded the recording. Whoops. So hopefully you went back and listened to it again if it wasn't working on your end. So thank you again, Erica. You are a badass. I appreciate you. And last Monday's podcast, once it was up and running, was about checking your progress and accepting even the tiniest of progress. Instead of being discouraged, using that energy to dig deeper so you can play bigger. Learning how to shut down the negative shitstorm in your head. It's not always easy, is it? Hell no. But it's necessary if you want to make progress and achieve those goals. When you have unnecessary chatter in your head, it makes it hard to think straight and focus. As we all know, if you aren't focused, you certainly aren't productive, are you? And it can just create a snowball effect. It doesn't matter if it's, a shitty comment from someone that they made to you or that you couldn't stop thinking about, or maybe you made a mistake, or perhaps a presentation or workshop that you led. You weren't quite sure how it went because you weren't getting the feedback or the reaction that you wanted or you thought you would, or maybe you have before. Any sort of mental anxiety can steal your focus and knock you off track. Or perhaps you were just simply distracted by all the weirdness that's going around you, like me, while I was attempting to write this podcast. One gentleman that was sitting outside, but in my line of sight, completely just looked lost. He sat there. He was there for a very long time. He sat there. He was either staring out into space, occasionally hanging his head, while rubbing his hands together, or just, tapping his hands and feet. He just looked very disturbed, like he was very into deep thought, not like he was mentally disturbed. He just looked like something was on his mind. Or maybe you were distracted by the couple or that walked, more like stumbled in to get food and water. I wasn't quite sure if they were drunk or something, but they were acting strangely, and it was just interesting. And then there was this little old lady who was driving through the parking lot, perpendicular to all the parking spots, finally stopped right before she hit a car, backed up, moved around. I was like, what is she doing? Is she parking there? Or is she going to hit the car? And then she had to give a little honky honk at the person that she almost hit. I was like, what is going on here? It was just a very strange day. But guess what I'm doing? I'm allowing myself to be distracted. I'm allowing these things to affect my focus. So I ask you, am I struggling with writing this because, obviously now I'm writing about being mentally distracted, or am I allowing other things that happened to take up my brain space, whereas I can't think and focus and come up with something and write? It's all of it. It's all of it, right? If you're not fully into what you're doing, or you have something that's on your mind, we've all been there. It's just, we ruminate. We just go over and over and over and say, could that have gone differently? What could I have said differently? What could I have done better? Yes, I was allowing yesterday to fuck up today, right? Sometimes we need a mental break to help us regroup, but that's not usually sitting in the Starbucks watching the weirdness. It's usually in the form of, although that can be pretty funny, but usually that's in the form of reading a book, a vacation, a walk, a workout, a run, chilling, listening to music or podcasts. Sometimes we need to think through things and make decisions. Life, businesses, decisions, doesn't matter. Strategies for growth and things that are probably best done when you have or don't have other things to do, when you aren't mentally distracted. You've got to make the best decision, because will you? If you're not fully present, how can you really think through any sort of strategy? Will you be able to think logically and proactively, or will you just be reacting? So, as we look at the end, we're now in the middle of the March, we're in the middle of the last month of the first quarter, we've got to look at what, how, and why. What can we do to eliminate distractions? What can you do to let yesterday's bullshit go? What can you do to stop the negative chatter in your head and remember that you are a badass? What can you do to dig deeper? And most importantly, what will you do to finish this first quarter strong? Think about, what are you allowing to knock you off track? And what are you accepting that will help you? As I travel back to Indiana this week for the week of badassery, I will bounce between client meetings and friend times. It's going to be a fun week, a fun packed week full of meetings, but also helping clients really make sure they're making progress, even if it's tiny little steps. Remember, baby steps are still progress. And I'm going to help them remember to let go of the bullshit. And if they haven't made any progress, identify what they're allowing and what they aren't or are accepting. Because no matter where they are, what they have to accept is that they still have 8.5 months left in the year to kick ass. And so do you. Make sure that you're getting back on track and you're checking that progress so you'll finish the year strong and just feel good about the first quarter, right? You've got a lot of time in the year left to make amazing things happen. We want to acknowledge if we haven't made progress, but make necessary changes, dig deep, and go. So what about you? What are you allowing and what are you accepting? Interesting, huh? So thinking about that. Follow me. Make sure you're following me on social media. So we're going to continue the conversation this week. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions or input, comment here wherever if you're driving, you can't comment. But if you're on social media, please make a comment or email me, sandy@sandyballard.com. Remember, Sandy is with an I. All right, have a great week. I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.